What's going on, Badger Nation? Welcome to the PPC Den podcast, the world's first and longest running show all about Amazon PPC to make your Amazon advertising life a little bit easier and a little bit more profitable. Today, we're stepping just slightly outside of Amazon PPC, and we're going to be talking about things to stop doing in your product page analysis. And in order to do that, I brought in my dear friend, amazing person to be in the Amazon marketing space with, which is Emma from Marketing by Emma. And she will break down 11 things to stop doing in your Amazon listings today to get better results and a better conversion rate. We've been podcasting now for over 300 episodes. So that is an overwhelming amount of information, but it amounts to what I think is the best resource to level up your Amazon PPC and overall Amazon marketing skills. We have an organized spreadsheet download in a checklist form so you can find whatever topic you're looking for whenever you need it. So be sure to get the checklist in the description. I really am proud of the knowledge that we have in there, organized so neatly for you. And without further ado, let's jump in to this episode.
I've launched campaigns and picked keywords. I've got my bid, set placements too. And bad mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my share of broad keywords, but I've gone through. We are the PPC Den, my friends, and we'll keep up the rising to the end. You two are the PPC Den. We talk about Amazon. No time for manicures, 'cause we fix the gambit of the world.
You know, Emma, one thing I wanted to ask, and I haven't asked anyone this who lives in Las Vegas, but I've seen tons of videos on this. And that question is, have you been to the Sphere?
Yes, I have.
Have you gone inside the Sphere and like seen a show or something?
Yeah, I saw Dead & Co. and it's so cool.
Is it?
Yeah, if you have the opportunity to go to the Sphere, you absolutely should. The videos are awesome, but you just can't really describe the experience unless you're in there. It is truly, it's almost like seeing a live show inside an even more immersive Omnimax theater, if you've ever been to one of those. So certain times you feel like you're moving and it's a full sensory experience.
I also love how they could have just done the inside, but they also did the outside of the Sphere.
Yes.
So that it's just cool to look at.
Yeah, I will say I never tire even just of getting a peep of it and seeing whatever is on the screen of the moment. And it's just, it's fun when you're flying in or out of Vegas and you get to see it from above. And it's certainly become an iconic part of the Las Vegas skyline and aesthetic. And it's really worth going to. It's expensive, but it's also a one-of-a-kind experience that you cannot have anywhere else in the world.
I wonder what the future of VR goggles will do to in-person experiences, right? Like being able to sit in your room and theoretically watching a movie on a 75-foot screen, perspective based, and outside of the screen is the Grand Canyon. I wonder how VR will continue to catch on or not. I actually just saw something that said the Apple Vision Pro is slowing production because no one's buying it. The $3,500 Apple VR. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I actually think some of the most exciting things about VR are from therapeutic aspects of it. So I don't know how familiar you are with it, but there have been really great applications for helping people that suffer from PTSD or are going through chronic illness like cancer and different ailments like that, where it can have really profound positive psychological benefits. So obviously there's not going to be as huge of a market for that as people just wanting to sit around their room and travel all over the world. But I guess the problem with that is you can't take the selfie.
What's the point? That's beautiful. That's what a beautiful thing that exists. And I hope a lot of people are helped by it. Speaking of other beautiful things that exist, congratulations on your YouTube channel. It's such a great, I feel like if you were to go back and listen to all of the podcasts that we've recorded together over the years, you would see sprinkles of you. Because I remember at one point you were like, hey, I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel. And this was years ago. And then now you've been like weekly publishing for, what was it, like a year and a half now?
Solidly posting for 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really been one full year of really trying to figure this out and be committed to this project, which I think has been just as much of a personal project as a professional one, which I mean, isn't that so much of entrepreneurship?
Yeah. There's no difference. Yeah. Yeah. Even if I'm like doing a hobby that's like outside of work, like if I'm playing guitar, I'm just like, should I start a YouTube guitar channel? Like, it's a little bit of a prison to like view everything like that, where it's just like, somebody really likes golf. They're like, should I like start a golf business? And it's like, I don't know. Some people are very good at splitting, like doing just that. But there's lots of times where I just want, I'm done with the workday. And if anybody mentions like conversion rate one last time, I need to like go like out for like a 3-hour run or something. Yeah. So there's a degree of that. Yeah. Anyway, the reason I mentioned your YouTube channel is because we'll link to it down below. I was scrolling through your YouTube channel and you had this incredible video, which I thought would be worth amplifying here. We talk a lot about Amazon listings when you come on the show. Last time we had a great episode where I actually shared some of my recent purchases and we sort of did a teardown of what we saw in those product listings, which was super fun. Every time one of the products that we looked at was an Allen wrench set. And every time I look at this Allen wrench set in my house, I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember doing that episode with Emma, which was really nice. But you had this really cool video. We talk so often about what to put in a product listing. You have to have certain things in the listing, but not so often about stuff to take out or stuff to avoid. So if it's all right with you, I'd love to go rapid fire here about 11 things to remove from your Amazon listing.
Absolutely.
Let the games begin.
One of the reasons why I felt like it was important to make this video in particular is because there's so much that content created around listing optimization. And what was effective 8 years ago when I started working with businesses on Amazon, a lot of that is no longer relevant. And so I think that sometimes what happens is people are following advice that is outdated. And so I wanted to create a resource to be able to kind of just clear the slate to be able to calibrate and identify, okay, a lot of these things that seem like they might be best practices are actually not only not best practices, but could even be threatening the health of your listing or your account. And now with the way that Amazon's AI can be identifying some of these things so much easier, it's also not as likely that you'll get away with them as you once could. And so it's important to be aware of what those things are in order to make sure that you're not creating any friction that's getting in the way of you just being able to focus on growing your business.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up question on that. You mentioned, when you first started versus now, things have changed. And I just want to clarify, would you say it's because the strategy has changed or some of like the finer notes have changed? Like, are you referring to something that was allowed in the past is no longer allowed? Or are we talking more strategic, meaning like customers are looking for something different on listings?
It's really both. It's sort of, so I don't know how familiar you are with Walmart Marketplace, but because it's still relatively new, there are a lot of things that you can do on there that you can no longer do on Amazon. And so some of that, I think, is just as Amazon has matured as a marketplace, they have been stricter on certain things. And some of them also come from the fact that when we started in 2016, it just wasn't as competitive. You could still go on to a tool like Jungle Scout and find, look at their list of 100 top products to sell. I don't know if they still put those lists out, but I remember.
Very popular. Very popular to do that. It's like, what should I sell?
Right. And so, people have these catalogs of the most random products, like a baby backpack and a chef's knife and a garlic press, all the trendy products to sell back then. If you understood SEO and you could just make a listing that looked a little bit better than the few competitors that were there, then you could find a lot of success. And you didn't have as many levers to pull. The advertising side was far simpler. And so it was just really a different environment all around.
Yeah. And with that, let's jump in to 11 things you should remove from your Amazon listing. Alrighty, Emma. Item number 1, a satisfaction guarantee. My first response is, why not? And what is a satisfaction guarantee and why can we not include these?
Kind of boring reason is because Amazon essentially, if you have something written on your listing, it needs to be applicable to any of the items under that listing that get sold. And you can't actually honor and enforce that if there is another seller that is also selling that item. If they get the buy box and they sell that product or it's used or what have you, you don't have a way of upholding that. And so it's not something that is allowed for that.
There's like an Amazon marketplace rule.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I probably did not describe that in the most sophisticated way possible. Compliance people could probably give a much more nuanced explanation of that, but that's how I understand it, because there's no way of enforcing that every single seller also uphold that same policy that you have if it's not just you that's selling it.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that, when sellers are selling on Amazon, they need to abide by Amazon's rules. I was just talking to someone who's in the middle of expanding beyond Amazon. They're going to build their own Shopify store, and they were just mouth agape, just so excited to be able to craft their own customer experience exactly the way that they wanted to. So they could have something like a guarantee on their own site, but on Amazon, there's sort of an expectation, a consistency level that Amazon wants their Amazon shoppers to have, which is you're going to get a similar experience. And if some people have a random guarantee and others don't, it will be inconsistent there.
Yeah. And I mean, that's also a great reminder of why you don't ever want to just copy and paste your content across all channels. First of all, there's different ways that you need to do things. So you could get into trouble if you're taking it from your website onto Amazon. But on the flip side, if you're taking things from Amazon and putting it onto your website, you could perhaps be missing out on really being able to highlight and call out some things that are not only important, but are actually more important if you're selling on your own website, because now you don't have that earned trust of being bought within the Amazon ecosystem unless you're using Buy with Prime through your Shopify store. And so you're needing to give people more reason to feel confident in making a purchase from you, even though they may not have a lot of familiarity with your brand. So some of the things that no-nos on Amazon are actually really, really important in other spaces.
All right, this next one was very popular at one point in time. Emojis in your listing, specifically bullets and product description. Emojis on Amazon. It's a no-no, huh?
This is a huge pet peeve of mine. It's a no-no. You have to use special character. You're not allowed to use special characters in your bullets or in your product description. And so you have to use those to be able to add emojis there. And as an aside, I truly, this was something that bothered me even when you could get away with doing them, because so often the brands that I see using these, it makes no sense for them to be using emojis anyway. Emojis are, from my perspective, speaking to a very specific audience. And if that is not who your target customer is, then emojis could actually be cheapening your brand and giving a perception that may not be in line with how you want people to be looking at and thinking about your business. And so just as on a policy level, you're not allowed to have special characters in those fields. And I should also add that you're going to still be seeing all of these things that we're talking about, because if somebody uploaded their listing years ago and they're not changing it, then they can continue getting away with it until somebody reports it or until Amazon takes a look at it. And so don't use other sellers' listings as justification for doing something that you know Amazon doesn't allow.
I always like to say suspensions or warnings or anything can be proactive or reactive. Proactive in the sense of like you go to submit it and you're not allowed to submit it, or reactive where it's like it's there, but they just haven't gotten around to enforcing it. And this is true everywhere on any platform where like the enforcement component can take time. And it's also very unfair. Like some competitors can potentially, you see this a lot with sort of grayer areas like CBD type stuff or like knives or something like that, where it's just like it's sort of a gray area. And I'll talk to people, they're like, well, my competitor is doing it, but I'm not allowed. Like, how do I get it? And it's like, Amazon hasn't gotten around to disciplining them yet, but it creates a very frustrating, seemingly unfair environment. So yes, emojis in the bullets, get them out of there.
Well, they are.
All right, comparison charts. Comparison charts are very hot. They've been hot, getting hotter, I would say. Ergo, let's drop 7 comparison charts. Is that right?
Yeah, that's definitely been the trend for the last couple of years. Is like, who needs other content in your A+ or premium A+? Let's just have lots of comparison charts of all of our items. And I understand the appeal of that. And I'm personally of the opinion that this is sort of a bizarre choice on the part of Amazon. I think that 1 is too little. I would say 2 or maybe 3, but to me 2 is a good amount, because I think it's really valuable in being able to not only show what you might be comparing directly against, but if you have items that also pair well with other items, like especially if you're selling anything in the beauty space or clothing, you're looking at leggings, but people may also want sweatshirts and other things, then it's valuable to be able to increase the cart value to have those comparison charts there. But Amazon has decided that they want sellers to just have 1 in their A+ content. And they've said, and I will say I haven't heard about this happening. So it's either that this hasn't been reported to me or they're just not enforcing it quite as much as they were saying. But what they were saying is that if you don't change this by, I believe it was November 1st, but I could be mistaken, then they're going to start just deciding which ones to get rid of. And so you obviously don't want to leave those choices in Amazon's hands. It's better to at least decide on what you feel is going to be the most valuable to your business. And then also making sure that you're able to replace those other comparison charts with additional modules to make sure that you're taking full advantage of your real estate that you have.
All right, this is popular. This is becoming more, this is a word that you hear more and more often, which is greenwashing. Greenwashing claims. Greenwashing, is it like saying like the BP oil spill was lathering up those animals so that they have shiny feathers?
Sometimes you can actually substantiate, like if something is biodegradable, you can't just say it's biodegradable if it's not. Like you will have certain paperwork that demonstrates that it, that you can put it in your compost and that it will biodegrade. But there's terms like eco-friendly, environmentally friendly, sustainable, that are very hot and attractive to consumers, but do not have any way of being able to substantiate. And so they're seen as manipulative, and particularly because a lot of companies that did nothing to warrant using those terms use them in a way that misleads customers to believe that they are buying something that is more conscious of the environment than what it actually is. And so there's a lot of rules around words that you cannot say or words that you can only utilize if you, in fact, have the correct credentials. So like you can't just say your product is organic. You need an organic certification in order to be able to say that. And one of the reasons why is because otherwise customers wouldn't be able to differentiate, and every brand would be saying it, because why not? Obviously, you can command a higher price tag, and it's one of those buzzwords that has meaning to customers.
All right, the year is 2006, and one of my favorite things to do is keyword stuff. In fact, I don't know if anyone knows this because it's from the Google SEO world, but a popular technique, believe it or not, would be to have like white text on a white background and just do keyword stuffing on your website. And there was a period of time where it worked fantastically. In fact, there's like a famous case of the Lexus car company doing just that, where they, on the bottom in their footer, just had a bunch of white words on white background, and they would rank for those words a little bit stronger because like at one point in time, the algorithm was so unsophisticated that it was just like count of word equals more ranking strength. So yeah, interesting time early SEO was in general. And, same thing kind of applies on Amazon. It's got to be read by humans. So keyword stuffing, too many keywords. Talk to us about using keywords.
Yeah, keywords are an interesting conversation right now because there's all of this buzz that's going on with how AI is coming in and changing the customer buyer journey and how that is influencing the way that businesses use keywords. And what's interesting to me about this conversation is there are a lot of people that are making these claims that it's so different and that it's suddenly just transforming how you're supposed to write your listing. And this might be a spicy opinion, but I think that is just nonsense, because the fact is that you should have already been putting the customer comprehension front and center, which is not so different from helping the AI understand your content. So it's essentially the more descriptive and clearer that you're able to be about your item in a way that the end user or the AI can understand, the more effective job you're going to be doing. And so this idea that you need every possible iteration of a keyword embedded within your listing is not necessary, because first of all, that's going to get in the way of customers being able to understand your product. It's going to get in the way of customers feeling confident and wanting to buy your product, which if people are not completing a purchase when they go into your listing, that's going to negatively influence how you rank and perform. But also the AI is more sophisticated in being able to create relationships to understand, well, if this is how you're identifying, then all of these other phrases are also going to relate. So it's not saying that you shouldn't be doing keyword research and you don't need to incorporate any keywords at all. It's really understanding, okay, how are my customers conceptualizing my product? How are they going to look for my product? What are the types of things that they're going to be searching and using to describe this item, and making sure that you're really comprehensive in your explanation of all of these things throughout the listing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. There's this concept in the digital marketing world, which is like a post-keyword world, where keywords matter less because there's a sophisticated mechanisms that understand, like, you don't need to put the singular and the plural version in your listing anymore, because the robot who's reading it understands those things are related. So if somebody searches the plural and you have the singular, it's going to be just fine for your listing. I don't think we're there just yet, in the sense of like, I don't think we're post keywords just yet,
Right.
But I do think there, will be steps in that direction, especially when people begin to view search boxes as conversation prompts, where instead of typing in something in a search box, they might be typing in a sentence, like asking a question, like, what are some gifts that, I could buy a podcast guest? And it'll like suggest things that I could share, potentially buy for a podcast guest, which is like potentially never been searched before, but it's like a conversation that I might have with Amazon Rufus to help find the perfect product. I'll ask that question, then I'll ask another question, like, now give me ones below $50 or something like that.
Yeah. Or for people that run their own businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And with that, let's jump to number 6. Bullets. Long bullets. Talk to us about long bullets.
Yeah, this goes hand in hand, I think, in some ways with the keyword stuffing, which is, I remember when we first started writing listings, and if you could add 500 characters for every bullet, then you would, because more than anything, it was an SEO opportunity. But there's a real problem with that, which is that nobody in their right mind wants to read a 500 character hefty, chunky bullet, because that's like a meaty paragraph of a bullet.
Times 4 or 5 bullets.
Yeah, it's just too much. Let's think about what a bullet's job is. A bullet's purpose, the reason why we
It's
use
literally called a bullet.
is to distill the most important information so that you can glean a quick summary of the highlights to be able to dive deeper if you want to. So long bullets go in direct contradiction to what their function is. And if a customer is using bullets to be able to determine whether this item checks the boxes that they need, then they're not going to be able to do that effectively if you have these really long bullets. So keeping them concise, and this is good. This is true for all of your content on and off of Amazon. If you can say something in fewer words, it's going to be more powerful than having a long and winding sentence.
We live in a world where people scan things.
Yes.
Scan things, for sure. So that's a great piece of insight. And you can sort of have your cake and eat it too, meaning you can make it keyword focused and concise to the customer. And I think it really comes down to like knowing who your customer is and what's really valuable to them. One thing I've said before on the show is like the goal of your product page is to really let customers know you are the product that's going to solve their problem with as quick as possible. Because if they can land and you just get right to that part of their brain that answers that question, yes or no, like, is this the product I need? The psychological component of that is so powerful. So for sure.
And the longer that period becomes, the more likely that they are going to be feeling hesitant or starting to compare you to others. So the more friction, the more uncertainty, the more time that you expand that path to purchase, the more uncertainty there's an opportunity for a customer to feel. It's like you go to a page and you're like, yes, I want this. Wait, do I want this? I don't know, but let me read a bit further. Oh, let me take a look at some other options. Oh, you know what? I just feel overwhelmed by all of this. I can't even be bothered right now.
Well said. Let's jump to number 7. Removing restricted language from your listing. Restricted language like swear words.
That can be swear words. This is a little bit nuanced based on category. So what some people can say, others cannot say. There is a little bit of nuance to this, but this can include, for example, bacteria or pests.
Ooh, yeah.
Or toxic. A lot of those things that flag pesticide-related claims, that's a really big one. But it can also be related to marijuana, tobacco.
Yeah.
Things that are adult product-related items where sometimes you can utilize them, but then that's going to influence, you're going into a more restricted category that then has rules around how you can advertise and whatnot.
You see this a lot if you go to Amazon, you type in CBD, and then you click on any of the products, you will not find the word CBD listed anywhere.
Yeah.
I just did this search. So yeah, anyone selling these kinds of products should always have like a no list of like, hey, like let's never mention that, but
Yeah.
like we can say this other thing.
Yeah, it's like if you were selling like a grinder for
Oregano.
and you can see that people are searching weed grinder.
Right.
That is not ever going to be written explicitly.
Yes.
Because that would get them immediately.
Yeah, I just searched weed grinder. Yeah, it's like herb grinder.
Yeah.
And, well, this is a great name for a product. It's called the Santa Cruz Shredder. And yeah, they're what are they grinding on this? They're grinding vegetables, carrots, chili, cinnamon. That's a good one. So yes, that list of stop words is really important. And we're laughing here, but it's true. Like I met someone who sold like some kind of fancy toothbrush thing, and like they got in trouble for saying bacteria, because like you can't make a claim. It's sort of related to the first point, which was like like guarantees, where it's just like, can you guarantee you're going to like actually remove bacteria? And then what's frustrating is like you also see products that have had clinical trials that like they get in trouble for mentioning or referring to on their listings because it'll get flagged for a similar reason. And then they have to go down this incredibly difficult path to sort of like demonstrate that they're allowed to say that. And it's sometimes not worth the effort or energy.
Another facet of restricted language are health claims. So, and that, I mean, you know, some of these rules are not Amazon specific rules. Some of these are
FTC
regulatory rules of, you can't say that this cures something if you
can't do it on your website either. Yeah.
No, exactly. So some of these things are actually, if you're selling in certain categories, like if you are selling in health or beauty, in particular, you really need to be aware of what the regulations are, because these are not things that are specific to Amazon. If you use them on your Instagram page, then that also puts you at risk of getting into trouble with some of these regulatory bodies.
Caps lock. Should you have it on when you're writing your listing? Talk to us about removing all caps.
I really wanted to yell no very loud as if it were in all caps and like a long...
Why don't you say it very softly instead?
No.
There you go.
I think this is one of the longest lingering things that Amazon, I believe, came out a couple of years ago now and said, stop doing this. And you still see a lot of it. There are a lot of people that will tell you to do this, you know, the people giving education online that still encourage doing this. But I know for a fact from speaking with people that help with compliance related issues that you can get your listing suppressed for doing this kind of stuff. And you just don't want to be taking a risk of not being visible to your potential customers. So Amazon says they don't want it. Don't do it. Obviously, there are reasons for why you want to do that, especially since you cannot bold. It's a great way at being able to call out what a particular bullet is about. The way that we've gotten around that is using title case for headers, so capitalizing the first letter of most words with the exclusion of, you can look into the grammar rules of title case if you are so inclined. But that's a way of still being able to demonstrate a differentiation and have a little bit of a visual highlight while still playing by Amazon's rules of saying no, none of this all caps nonsense.
Right on. Ooh, this is a good one. Things to remove from your listing: out of season content.
So these last ones are going to be more about poor marketing practices that I see a lot. And some of it's just honestly laziness, which is like out of season content. I don't want to see your gift wrapped Christmas pictures on a listing in May. If you're going to the effort of creating seasonally relevant imagery and content for your...
Got to keep up with it.
You have to keep up with it. You need to set a date on your calendar where you're taking it out, because it's off-putting. It seems sloppy and lazy. And the same would be true. Let's say that you have an item that's very giftable for a number of different holidays. And so if this is something that you have a big Valentine's Day rush, talk about Valentine's Day when it's Valentine's Day. But then we don't need to be having all of that content specific to Valentine's Day when we get into May and it's more about Mother's Day, and then getting into, you want to make sure that you are speaking to customers in the time that it is. And that's also from an SEO strategy important, because if you are wanting to capitalize on a specific time of year, then have it be very clear which time of year it is that you're referring to, and then move on to the next one.
This one's a pet peeve of mine as a consumer. Poorly edited images, obviously Photoshop, it's frustrating because it just sort of indicates like a lack of like care, right? Like where you see a product that's obviously like not in the scene. It's like a kid kicking a ball, but then the ball has been replaced with something else. And you're just like, come on.
Yeah.
And it looks so out of place. It's not scaled properly. The lighting is different. Like, is this what you're referring to?
Yes. Like one of the things that immediately comes to my mind is like, I'm picturing a kitchen and there's just like a spoon hovering on the wall.
Yeah. It's like, is it even on the table? Like, it doesn't even look like it's on the table.
Yes.
Yeah. It's tough.
These are the needle movers. And if you are competing against a lot of strong adversaries, all of these details matter immensely. They are going to influence whether somebody buys from you or somebody else. And the thing is that this is also influencing trust, because are you going to think that this is a really high quality brand to be shopping from if they don't even have like real pictures of their product?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I just searched, like think of Red Bull. I just searched Red Bull and like you can see there's like a rock climber and like the rock climber is drinking the Red Bull can and it's like looks very real. Like it's not like they went to stock photo rock climber and then just like put the can near them. Like I think this is a real rock climber with a real can on the thing. And it's subtle too. Like it's on a rock, so it's a little uneven. So the angle of the can is like slightly tilted back. And like you'd be able to tell if they just grabbed their vertical Red Bull can and just put it on the rock, like the perspective would be off. And like stuff like that matters. So like, what I just described isn't necessarily hard to do, right? Like you have the product, like go take a picture of it in the place where it could be used, right? Yeah.
Right. Or use customer images if you need also real, there are ways of being able to get low cost images if you need them. And I would rather have a not perfectly composed image that's of a real lifestyle situation than one that looks just so incredibly artificial that it feels like it's like doesn't even think highly enough about the customer to understand that they would be able to recognize that it is fake. People are so persuaded by the visuals. Your images play such a key part of determining whether a customer is going to make a purchasing decision or not. So why would you skimp here?
Yeah. It also makes me nervous for all of the AI product image generators. Like, I don't know if it's there yet. Maybe it will be. But yeah, it sort of looks like a poorly photoshopped image a lot of the times. I've seen better use cases where it's used more aesthetically in the sense of, oh, like it's a dynamic background. It doesn't look like they're trying to put in the kitchen. It's just like a pattern in the background, which adds a little pizzazz to the image. So some considerations there. And with that, let's jump to the last thing to remove from your listing. Generic language. What do you define as generic language and why should it be removed?
So what I'm defining as very wishy-washy content that doesn't have a clear perspective and isn't speaking to a specific person. And so what I mean by this is it's the temptation, I think, always to want to speak to as broad of a customer base as possible. And the challenge with that is that Amazon in particular is so, and this is also something that applies off of Amazon, but Amazon in particular is unique because you have all of your competitors all right there. So it's not on your own website where you have a captive audience. When somebody clicks onto your website, will take extra work for them to go to another website. But on Amazon, it's all right there. And so you really have to understand the competitive landscape that you are in and how to set yourself apart to give people a compelling reason to choose you. And if you are just speaking in very general terms without a clear perspective, and particularly if you are not the top dog with significantly more reviews and a really competitive price, then it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to achieve the results that you're after.
Can you give an example of generic language?
Let me think here. Liquid Death is always one of my favorite examples.
Cool.
But they're selling sparkling water at the end of the day, and still water, and I think now some teas and whatnot. But when they came out, it was canned water and canned sparkling water. And if you were to look at most sparkling water or bottled water, you're going to hear a lot of language that's saying hydration you can feel good about. You know, just something that like doesn't really have...
Doesn't mean anything.
Really saying anything. And you can even see this from a visual side. Like if you go and look at the water bottle section of a supermarket or a gas station.
It's all the same.
It's all blues and greens and this life-sustaining imagery and whatnot. And then you have Liquid Death coming in and they are doing the exact opposite. Like even in their name, Liquid Death, they are drawing direct contrast to this life-sustaining idea. They have death in the name. And they're really provocative with all of their messaging and language. And
kill your thirst.
Yes, murder or death to plastic is the way that they talk about sustainability. So rather than using, feel like protect Mother Nature, they're taking this very kind of hard rock edge to a lot of these ideas. So the core value is actually the same. You know, we're wanting to use aluminum instead of plastic because it has it's more sustainable and it's more recyclable, and so it has a less harsh impact on the environment. We're selling something that's water that's healthier to drink than alcohol at a rock concert. But we're doing it in a way that is going to appeal to a specific type of customer that may not be as excited about buying a regular water bottle, or feel weird even about holding a regular water in certain kinds of environments. And then that's why they're also able to charge. I mean, Liquid Death is expensive.
Right. Yes. Standing out from the crowd too. I also think what's interesting about that is how it pays to be aware of what the industry is doing and what you're doing, because, you know, having pretty pictures of Poland Spring isn't necessarily bad in and of itself, but like if you're walking into that niche and you also have something that looks like Poland Spring, it's just like, why you? Like everyone already knows Poland Spring.
Exactly.
So like being able to walk in and be different and unique is you need to be aware of the market.
Yeah. I mean, another example would be like, let's say that you're selling a facial moisturizer, which has some anti-aging ingredients in it. And if you're just saying, you know, achieve a radiant, glowy complexion, and there are a million skincares that are all saying that, but you actually know that your target customer is actually a woman in her 60s, and you are speaking in these very general terms. Like they know at that point, they're not getting rid of their wrinkles. They're not going to capture their youth. It's really about being able to feel good at where they are. And so if you're speaking in too general of terms, then you're actually going to alienate who your core customer base is, because you're not speaking to them. And if that's your core customer, and then in your images, you're using pictures of women in their 20s, then that's also going to give the impression that that this item is not for them.
And hey, wrinkles, gray hairs, they give us a seasoned sage look.
Yes.
Just want to shout out everyone.
Oh, I call it my tinsel.
So here are those 11 things to remove from your Amazon listing: satisfaction guarantees, emojis, more than one comparison chart, greenwashing claims, too many keywords, long bullets, restricted language, caps in the listing, particularly the titles, out of season content, poorly edited photoshopping, and generic language. Emma, thank you so much for letting us piggyback off your great YouTube video. Amazing content. As always, I know everyone out there in Badger Nations appreciates it. If somebody wanted to check out more of your content, we've already got the video linked in the description below, but people can find you all over the internet aside from your YouTube channel.
Yes, I am on the internet. I am Googleable. So I would love, obviously, if you check out more of my videos on YouTube, but I also have a website, marketingbyemma.com, and that is a good central hub where you can find how to contact us if you'd like us to take a look at your listing and give you analysis of some things that we think you can improve upon. There's a form to be able to fill out to claim your free analysis, and all of the other links to all of the other places, whether you're on LinkedIn or Instagram or prefer WhatsApp, we have it all.
Wow. What do you do with WhatsApp?
We have a lot of people that we work with who are international or who prefer WhatsApp. And so it's more of just a communication tool than a social media platform. Though we will share when a new video is live, and they have their own version of stories on WhatsApp.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, Emma, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your product page optimization knowledge with us. It's always valuable. Have a good one.
Thank you. You do the same.